You don't need cable. Hop on YouTube, welcome to the hood table, where we chop up local and global events vocally. You don't really wanna miss out on these conversations. Just joke a little, laugh a little, get that wine in your system, fill your glass a little, expose current events, talk trash a little. You never know, these opinions might clash a little. Get addicted to the you come whack, just know we ain't buying in. We gon' probably turn it back until you start try again. Yeah, welcome to the hood table. You don't need Netflix, you don't need cable. Yeah, welcome to the hood table.
You don't need Netflix, you don't need cable. Hey, what's up, everybody? What's going on? The Hood Table Squad and Primetime TV Squad. Come on in, everybody. Let's get ready for this part 2 of the Three Bodies Burning book review, which will include chapters 20 through 38. And I just have to say, I appreciate everybody who tuned in to part 1 of the book review of Three Bodies Burning. I didn't expect so many people to tune in and so many people to share the video and watch the video after we did the review live. Again, want to say I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I appreciate all our new subscribers as well to the Hood Table. And also you can follow us on Facebook, IG, and Twitter. So with that being said, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, feel free to subscribe. Make sure you hit the like button, give us a thumbs up. We sure would appreciate it very much. And again, we're going to be doing the Three Bodies Burning book review, part 2, chapters 20 through 38. And again, this is a book review. I just have to throw that in there again. This is a book review because of the simple fact that a few people had mentioned after part 1 book review of last week that they thought it was a movie. And I'm like, where in the title did they see movie or documentary? I don't know. I even reread the title of the video over and over again. And even in my notifications on Facebook, I did say this is a book review. So hopefully there will be a movie coming out soon. I've been talking to the author of the book, and there has been, things spoken up about a movie. So keep your fingers crossed. It might come true. Just keep your fingers crossed. But in the meantime, in between time, let's get started on this book review, part 2, chapters 20 through 38 of Three Bodies Burning. Now, let me get a drink before I get started. Talking nonstop for an hour or so makes your voice really dry. But anyway, so we're let's see. Last week we left off at the end of chapter 19. We had ended off part 1 of our book review, learning about some of the commercial real estate that the detectives found in Preston and Galen's name. And one of those, which was a lawn service business front. And the other one was actually, hey, Candace, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you thumbs up the video and share it. But one of them was a lawn service business front, and the other one was a barber shop business in a strip mall, which was off of 60th and Ames Street, which was approximately 3 miles from the location where the 3 burning bodies was found. And the detectives had a lot more investigation and stones yet to turn over to solve this crime. So let's get started on part 2. So the detectives, Detective Bo and Roscoe, they still had to find a connection of factual proof that Preston and Galen were indeed connected with the Arizona crew, which again was Beto Jr. Rojas, Jesse Bully Romo, Adam Zeke Romo, the brothers, Derek Roy Malo, and Kenny KB Boston. So first up, They had to subpoena the airlines and the rental car companies. And even though it took quite some time, quite a while, they soon were able to get all the details on flight history and travel history for Preston and Galen. And during this process as well, they had to get what all they knew of, all at that time to the U.S. Attorney's Office. And the U.S. Attorney assigned to the case was a Lillian Lomax. And after that assignment, their next mission was to get the indictments for felony drug charges rolling against Preston and Galen. And then hopefully soon after that, they will be throwing murder charges at the two men as well. So Lillian, she was going to be the attorney for the feds. And if murder charges were brought up, then Georgianne Goldstein, who we mentioned before, in part 1, she would be the state's attorney on the case. And being that the detectives was definitely hoping that murder charges would eventually be brought up, Georgianne was the go-to for that case because over time, her and Detective Bo, they had actually worked together on several murder trials. So Detective Bo had a lot of faith in her skills, her preparedness for such trials, and flawlessness, when it came to trying such cases. But of course, before they, got to the murder indictments, they needed more proof, more evidence to attach them to those 3 burning bodies. And they also needed to get started on finding the dope. So remember when Galen was pulled over for speeding on the highway, like 3 weeks before the 3 burning bodies was discovered. Now, during that incident, remember the police had confiscated over a pound of weed and they made photocopies of all the paperwork on Galen. The case actually was in 2005, Candace. Actually, the 3 burning bodies was found in 2005, but the case went to trial, some years later. But within that 2005 murders of those 3 burning bodies, they had, did investigation from that time to like 2006, 2007. That's when they, that's when it wrapped up. But the bodies were found in 2005, and that was May. Yes, it was on State Street, right on the corner of 60th and State. Well, it was about a few yards away from the corner of 60th and State in that wooded area over there. I remember when it happened, when it first happened. Well, not when it first happened. I remember when the book first came out years ago, and I read the book, and I was so intrigued by the book and the story that, like, a lot of the sites that was in the book, I had actually driven to the places. And I remember driving to 60th and State, and I had like this eerie feeling overcome me, and I like quickly turned around and headed back south. But yep. So the police, they had confiscated over a pound of weed from Galen. They made photocopies of all the paperwork, like his bank and credit card receipts. And on top of that, Preston had been arrested at the airport. Remember, he was arrested at the airport, and they took all the pics of all the items he had, including his bank receipts as well. So research regarding the financial information began. And during that research, they found evidence of large transactions and withdrawals from bank accounts in both of Preston and Galen's name. Now, if y'all don't already know, and most of y'all should know, banks, they do not normally have a reason to be suspicious of large deposits if they are under $10,000. But if they are over $10,000, then, banks are required to report suspicious activities and deposits. But as far as banking in this aspect, these 2 guys were very, very smart. I mean, these 2 guys, I must say, they might have made some mistakes here and there, but overall they were very smart, and they knew better than to deposit or withdraw really, really large, transactions. So anywho, yes, you definitely need to get the book. You definitely need to get the book, Candace, or do like I did and download it on Kindle. I went to Amazon and downloaded it on Kindle on my phone and on my iPad. So yeah, it's really good. So on top of a lot of time spent researching financial records, the detectives, they also got a subpoena to research phone records. And during that research, they discovered that Preston and Galen spent a large amount of time talking to each other. And then there was also another phone number that was frequently used, which belonged to a man by the name of Kenny, who they found out to be was a 55-year-old white guy with a record that was pretty much clean. So the question for the detectives was like, who is this guy? Who's this white guy associated with them? Why are they making so many phone calls to him? This guy doesn't have a really tarnished criminal record. And he frequently, is always in contact with these two alleged drug dealers and alleged murderers. And furthermore, after doing more research, why would this 55-year-old white guy named Guinea be traveling back and forth from Omaha, Phoenix so regularly? So that's one person that they had to investigate, because was he also involved in the drug trafficking? Or was he possibly involved with the murders of the 3 burning bodies? So they have to add that newfound name to the association chart. Now, all the names in this story, just to let you know, Candace, I don't think you tuned in to part 1, but I forgot to mention that at the beginning of this part 2 review. All the names in this book have been altered. So all the names in this book are fake. The people and the characters are real, but the names are fake. Now, I do know the names of all the people involved just from doing research, but for the purpose of the story, I'm following the book and I'm using the fake names from the book. But I can holler at you later if you want the names, the real names. And also, so after they added getting to the association chart, the detectives, they were knee-deep in researching bank transactions, travel history, including rental car companies and the airlines. They got a call during that time from a Texas homicide unit. A load driver who was trying to cross the border with 1.5 tons of weed had got caught up with the Border Patrol. This load driver's name was Eli, who claims that a year earlier he had delivered a load to Omaha to 2 big black guys. And the plan at that time was to deliver the load and then, of course, receive a substantial payment for the load. That was the plan. But somebody else must have had a different plan in mind. And that new plan was not to pay for that particular load. Now, Eli, he said he waited around for days and days for that payment, not knowing that he was never going to receive a dime. And then eventually the Mexican suppliers of the load said to come back to Arizona, just come back. They'll figure out what to do later. But I'm sure they probably had an idea that they had been duped. But before they could figure it out, they learned in the news about the 3 burning bodies that had been found in Omaha, Nebraska. So, of course, with this new lead, the detective planned a trip to Arizona to interview Eli. And when they went down there to interview Eli, they were quite surprised that he actually believed 2 of the dead men that was burned, he thought they were probably Preston and Galen. But come to find out, this guy Eli, he was delivering loads of weed all across the United States, including Omaha. He would either rent a U-Haul truck or a Ryder truck. I don't even think they make Ryder trucks anymore. I haven't seen a Ryder truck in forever. But I know they haul trucks. But anyway, he used to drive U-Haul trucks, Ryder trucks all across the United States, including in Omaha. And for his Omaha loads, he had mentioned how every time he comes to Omaha, he would always come to a specific house. And it was always the same specific house. He knew what the house looked like. He remembered like the surrounding areas because, he always came to the same house. What I think at that time, the detectives had, if you've been following this story, if you read this book up to this part, the things that were happening with these detectives, like how all this information just somehow was just falling from the sky at the beginning of this, investigation, it seemed like, how the heck they gonna figure out this crime, who done what, and how and why and when. But anyway, things kept falling in their laps, just like this guy Eli. But anywho, they subpoenaed Eli for his rental truck records, from the rider and the U-Haul. They were able to verify every single thing he said, including all the alias names he had used to rent different trucks, because, he's driving weed all around the country. So he was using all these different names. So they was able to verify all his different names and to prove that he was telling the truth. And so they had to add another name to their association chart. This association chart is getting longer and longer and longer. But now, if you live in Omaha, Nebraska, you said last time you seen a rider truck was in Texas. I ain't seen no rider truck. I can't even tell you. Honest to God, I can't even tell you. But if you live in Omaha, Nebraska, you probably are very familiar with the Keystone area, the walking trail, the Keystone area. I'm very familiar with that area as well. But while still doing research and surveillance, the detectives found out that Preston had recently bought a home in the Northwest Keystone neighborhood of Omaha, Nebraska. He had actually put down $50,000 for the house and had contractors working on the home daily doing some remodeling. Now, at that time, the detectives were trying to figure out where exactly these two guys could be keeping their drug stash. Like, are they keeping them in the barbershop? Are they keeping them in the lawn care service front where they never saw any lawn service equipment coming or going? Were they keeping them in a house? They had no idea where they were keeping all these drugs, but they had a feeling that they were involved in some big time drug dealing. So one day on a routine surveillance, Detective Bo, he noticed a big sign with an arrow pointed to a storage unit facility nearby called Bernie's Mini Storage. And then just like that, the bells went off. The lights went off. He was like, what a better place to store a lot of drugs than a storage unit. And I would have never thought of that either until after I read this book. But anyway, so the detectives, they were on another mission. They had to locate all of any storage units that might be rented by Preston and Galen. And this, of course, required a search warrant, which they quickly obtained. Now, after they received the search warrant, they were able to locate a total of nine storage units, either in Preston's names, Galen's name, or in the name of their girlfriends. 9 storage units. And some of them were in their girlfriend's name, so I guess these girlfriends was some ride or die chicks. But anywho, Preston and Galen, they had to been raking it in. They had to been raking. Before I even got to the part where they investigated the storage units, I'm just thinking 9 storage. They got to have all kind of shit in there. But anyway, along with the new discovery of those storage units and more research, they also discovered that Preston and Galen was not only raking it in, but they was rolling in style. These men had more cars than one could ever need. Preston and Galen, they both had, I only got one car. They both had 2 brown, newer matching Chevy Suburbans. They also had 2 newer dark colored extended cab pickup trucks. There was also a newer Chevy Monte Carlo that they both often drove. But the Monte Carlo, that was actually in Galen's girlfriend's name. But anyhow, Preston also had a white pickup truck with the UAF lawn decal, that was for their so-called lawn service business, aka grass business. And Preston had a newer maroon Cadillac Escalade. And the Escalade, I used to want one of those. Never could afford it though. My money was funny. But anyway, they was able to get all that and a Cadillac Escalade, and they each had matching brand new Dodge Magnums. And also, Preston had a 1-year-old Chevy Corvette. Ain't that a lot of cars, y'all? And the only thing that I could think of at that time when I was coming across this part of the story was why do people, every time they hit a lick, they got to buy so much stuff? Like, you supposed to be inconspicuous. Especially in a city like this in Omaha, Nebraska. It's only yay big. It take you like 5-10 minutes to get across the whole city. So if you got 10, 20, 11 cars, you know, people gonna notice. That's kind of flashy. But anyway, yes, the vet was 1 year old. So at that time, if that was in 2005, the Corvette was a 2004, the Dodge Magnums was 2005. I mean, they had some really nice cars, y'all. They had some nice cars. But back to the Monte Carlo. Why did the detective think, catch this. I'm gonna have to ask y'all for y'all opinion. Why did the detectives think it was a bright idea to do undercover surveillance in an identical maroon Chevy Monte Carlo with tinted windows and all, to the one that Preston and Galen was routinely driving? Man, these cops, they was sitting in the cut doing their little surveillance in a parking lot of a car wash nearby the lawn care business front, the lawn care, the grass company. And after sitting in the cut, observing the location, they seen Galen come out through the garage doors. He immediately recognized the car. And I mean, I would too, wouldn't you? This car that the detectives was sitting in was an identical car, identical to the T. I'm like, why the heck did they get a car that looked just like this man's? Like, you know how you buy a vehicle and you don't notice that vehicle until you bought a vehicle just like it. And then every car that you see on the street, it seems like every car you spot is the same as that car as yours. So that's what I'm thinking what happened with Galen. But anyway, they had the same identical car. He immediately noticed it and he started to drive towards this car. So they, you know, thinking, oh, shoot, we need to get the heck out of Dodge. They took off driving, but Galen kept following them. So the cops, you know, they done pulled off all nonchalant. You know, they sitting there in the cut. They see him coming. They done pulled off all nonchalant, acting like they just was a spying on him. And he starts telling them. So the cops, they the ones supposed to be telling the criminals. And now the criminal is telling him. So imagine being in that situation. You the cops, and you got this drug dealing, possible murderer chasing you down throughout these Omaha streets. I'm just, see. I'm picturing this mess in my head. I'm like, what the hell? But anyway, the cops eventually pulled over because they thinking, okay, if something's going to go down, we're going to make sure it's in the public, it's in the light. So they pulled up at a gas station. And when they pulled up at a gas station, they both pulled their guns out, had their guns on their hip, on their lap. And Galen pulled up and Bo rolled down the window. Detective Bo, he's a character. He pulled down the window and he tried to, you know, blow it off and act like, you know, they weren't again still, you know, spying on them or nothing. He was like, what the hell? Why is you following us? Why the hell is you following us? And Galen, oh, I thought y'all was somebody else. He believed it. He believed like, okay, this is somebody else. And you know what I was thinking was, since they was driving the same identical car as his, and the car was in his girl's name, and you know, sometimes Preston drove the car. Now, I'm gonna tell y'all this little story that happened to a guy friend of mine, right? He had this car, and the car was clean. It was tricked out and everything. It had personalized plates. Everybody in Omaha knew whose car that was, and they knew who drove that car. But anyway, one day the dude was driving around Omaha, and his girlfriend, had noticed him driving around in Omaha. So she started to, you know, not like chase him, like stalking him or nothing like that. But you know how you be, and you see your friends or your girlfriend or boyfriend, you see him out in public, you want to say hi, what's up, what's going on, what you doing, what's up later tonight, you know, stuff like that. So she was trying to get his attention, honking, following him. This fool kept on going. And I'm like, why you dodging her? He said when he pulled up to a stoplight, it was like 30th and Ames somewhere, you know, real busy intersection. He pulled up to the stoplight and she pulled up right next to him. She looked over and saw another broad, another chick sitting in the car. I was like, that's why you was dodging her. She must have got out in the middle of the intersection at the lights, ran over to his car, was banging on his window, screaming his name, open his door, roll the window, open his door. That man must have, as soon as that light turned green, he must have peeled out, burnt rubber, left smoke all in her face and everything. While she up there in the middle of the street on 30th and screaming and hollering and crying. I was dying. But that's what I was thinking. Like when I heard Galen had seen the car identical to his that's in his girlfriend's name. Like, why this girl ain't stopping? I'm following her. And I'm like, okay. I had to tell you that story because that's the first thing that came to mind. But anywho, she was out there rah on her rah. They made up after that, but then they broke up again because another girl was involved. But anywho, on another surveillance, they noticed another Chevy Suburban, but it was much. Candace, you laugh. It was much newer than the other two, and it had a decal in bright blue colors wrapped all the way around the truck. The decal had the logo of Deuces Down Music on it. These dudes started her studio. They done started up a record studio. They got a lawn care service where they never see any lawn care equipment. The cops on their surveillance. They got a barber shop. Ain't nobody up in there getting their haircuts. Now they got a recording studio. So anywho, after running the plates, the detective realized that Suburban was actually one of the other Suburbans that they already had down in their records that they noted was brown. So they done repainted it and then threw a decal on it for their music studio company. So Preston and Galen, this is what had happened. They put down $60,000 on a property for a recording studio under the corporate name of Deuces Down Music. Hey, Aisha Stockton, what's going on, love? What's going on? Welcome to the book review of Three Bodies Burning. But yes, these men is rolling in the dough. They rolling in the dough. They done started a music business, a recording studio, barbershop, lawn care business, all these fronts all over the place. But I think the music business was like for real, because we all know that most people back in the day, they music, how they got started, how they first started releasing music, getting them labels running, all that, it was by drug money. A lot of them was by drug money. A lot of people back then couldn't get no real record deals and get signed by people. A lot of that stuff came from drug money. But anywho, they had the recording studio, the lawn care business, the barbershop. They had houses all over Omaha. They had more cars than one could use. And to top it all off, they had got a lead from a Phoenix gang investigator that another house was found in Phoenix, Arizona, purchased by Preston in the amount of $340,000. He had actually put down $102,000. But due to, you know how I used to be in real estate back in the day. And back then, there was a lot of house flipping. So in certain areas, you could buy a house. You could put down a whole bunch of money on that house. But for the next few years, you have to actually pay rent. It was like these local real estate escrow laws where you have to actually live in a house for 2 years before you can actually start purchasing the house. And again, that was because a lot of people was doing a lot of house flipping. So they found out from a gang detective down in Phoenix about this other property. And what else did they find at that house in Phoenix? They found a brand new. Now, Candace, how many cars we already said they had? They had like 50,000 cars already. They found a brand new Range Rover worth $60,000 paid in full at the house in Arizona. I'm there thinking, these guys getting like a lot of their drugs from the Mexican cartel, but they was looking like the native Omaha, Nebraska cartel. I'm like, who's really providing the drugs? Because these guys was getting it in. They was getting it in. And I ain't even put a dent in everything that they had yet. But anywho, they was getting all this money, making all these big money moves with all that drug money. And it's quite obvious at that time from the detective's point of view, that from the amount of money, from the amount of drugs that the Arizona crew said was being sent to Omaha, Nebraska, and from the financial records and the property records they owned all over the place, that Preston Galen was running a multi-million-dollar marijuana business right in the middle of the hood of Omaha, Nebraska, right where I am, right here in the hood. Multi-million-dollar marijuana business right in the middle of the hood of Omaha, Nebraska. I would have never imagined. But you know one thing, Candace, I remember about back in the day, around the 2004, 2005, 2006 era, it was a lot of people out here doing big things. And I just thought everybody had a job. I just thought everybody had a job. People in the hood going to college. Got some good jobs. They had some jobs, all right. Some multi-million-dollar weed business job. But anyhow, they had an idea. They knew they was doing it big. So what Detective Bo came up with was a suggestion that they get warrants for all of the storage units, hire a locksmith to gain access, and search the units, hoping to find proof of this multi-million-dollar weed business. So once the locksmith got them into the storage units, they found all kinds of shit. They found more cars. They found a 1998 Cadillac Eldorado that was backed up into one of the storage units. But that 1998 Cadillac wasn't the jackpot. It was a nice car. But what they found in back of the trunk of the Caddy, they found a box overflowing with tons of money, a safe nearby the box overflowing with tons of money. It was so much money in the box and in the safe in the trunk of those cars. It was enough money probably to pay all my bills for the next probably 10 to 15 years. It was a lot of money that they found in there, and the weed. They found another unit in the storage unit. Another unit they went into. It was 15 1-pound packages of weed in 1 gallon Ziploc bags. Now, that was not a truckload of weed, but along with the weed, along with the money and the weed, it definitely was enough evidence to get them a search warrant for all of the other storage units in Preston's, Galen's, and their girlfriend names, plus search warrants for the barbershop, the recording studio, and the lawn care business, plus warrants for every single property they had purchased and or was renting. And I say renting because one of the houses was the home of Preston's girlfriend, and it was a Section 8 property. So they would... why you a girl in a Section 8 property and you running a multi-million-dollar weed business with tons of cars? I mean, tons of money, homes all over the place, but your girlfriend still in a Section 8 property? Like, okay, y'all might as well just kept the ball rolling and put her in a mini mansion out in West Omaha. I'm just saying. Yes. You said remember like we were sitting right on. Yes. Man. So the plan was that as soon as they were provided the other search warrants, this was the plan. They were going to hit each and every location at the same time, if at all possible. That was a lot of locations. We talking 9 storage units. We talking houses, barbershops, recording studios. You know what I mean? Lawn care businesses. It was a lot of locations, and they were going to try to hit them as close as possible at the same time. So that was the plan. But in the meantime and in between time, the plan was to count all the money that they had found, all the money that they had discovered, so it could be inventoried and put in a police property unit. And the money that they found, that they counted, first of all, and I hope every cop by now has a money counter, an automatic money counter. Hey, Gigi, hey, boo. I hope every department has a money counter. These men, literally, their unit, these investigators, they had to count all that money by hand, and they had to have it all counted by the AM when they were going to do all the raids on all those properties. So a few of them would count. Then they would hand all the money over to somebody else. Then if it didn't add up, they had to hand it over to somebody else. And if it didn't add up, they had to hand it over to somebody else. By the time they actually finished, they had came up with $358,000. That's almost $500,000, y'all. And then counting all the weed that they found in that one unit. Yeah. That was just those one, man. Okay. Let's keep it moving. You said you feel like they had a garage in the Benson area. I don't think it was Benson per se. I think it was more like what's that? I think it was in the Keystone area. It was in the Keystone area, I believe. That's where it was. Don't quote me on it though. So now, after they done counted all that money, just imagine hitting a lick. You and your undercover detectives, y'all done found almost $500,000, all this weed. Y'all know where all the property is, all the cars and everything. Just imagine how anxious they were to proceed with the rest of those search warrants. I know I would have been thinking like, oh my God, this is the big one. I'm like, oh my God, like Fred Sanford, this is the big one. But anyway, it was like early in the morning when they got to the first place after they got the warrants that hit all these different locations. It was early in the morning. The first place they wanted to hit was Preston and Galen's main residence. Now, Preston's main residence, where he lived with his girlfriend and their two kids, was off of 40th and Ave, right in the middle of what we called back then gangland territory, 40th Ave. But while they were doing surveillance on Preston's house and waiting for the SWAT to get there, Preston had actually woke up, got out the house, and it wasn't like he knew something was going on. I guess it was just he was just leaving the house. So he left the house, and they hurried up and contacted somebody so they could follow him and keep an eye on him. Right after he left, they hit his house. They quickly, got possession of the house with the detectives and everything. Then they went to hit up Galen's house. So the SWAT, after they hit that house, there was two SWAT teams. So the other SWAT team hit Galen's house like right at the exact same time. He happened to be home. So they quickly apprehended him and took him downtown. Then they had to hit the other locations as soon as possible because this is Omaha, Nebraska. And if you're from here, the city ain't that big. Word spread quickly around Omaha, Nebraska, even if it is at the crack of dawn. And word of the raids did quickly spread like wildfire that the police was on to Preston and Galen's criminal activities. Now, at Preston's house, nothing was found. But at Galen's house, they found a gun and marijuana. That was at Galen's main house. But when the first SWAT team got to the second location, which was the lawn service business, y'all, they hit another lick. They found a ton more cars along with huge trash bags. Ken, you have mentioned the trash bags earlier. Yes. They had trash bags. It was like 6 huge trash bags. And inside each trash bag was 20-gallon size bags of marijuana. And all in all, are y'all ready? Let me take a drink because I'm about to tell y'all what all they found. Are y'all ready? These dudes was doing the damn thing. That's all I got to say. They was doing the damn thing. Okay. In Bernie's mini storage unit number 427, they found 13 1-pound packages of marijuana. In Bernie's mini storage unit number 245, they found a 1973 restored Chevy Impala. In Bernie's mini storage unit number 246, they found that 1985 Cadillac Eldorado that I mentioned earlier with $358,000 of cash in the trunk. At Crown Storage Unit number 135, They found another $164,880 of cash and a JVC 56-inch big screen television still in the box unopened. In Crown Stores unit number 292, they found a 1973 Chevy Caprice convertible. In Crown Stores unit number 478, they found 2 bales of marijuana, total weight 36 pounds. They found a KK SBR model J15 223 assault rifle with 2 boxes of ammunition. In Crown Stores unit 350, they found a 1984 Dodge Ram van containing 30 bales of marijuana, total weight of 716 pounds. I'm not done yet. At the lawn service business front, they found 258 pounds of marijuana, a money counting machine, $81,970 of cash found inside a pop machine, a 2003 blue Chevy Suburban, a 2004 blue Chevy truck, a 2005 silver Dodge Magnum, another 2005 black Dodge Magnum, a 2004 Chevy Corvette, a 2006 blue BMW 750 series with only 250 miles on it, and a 2006 black BMW 750 series with only 200 miles on it. At Galen, I'm not done yet. At Galen's house, at his main house, they found another $22,990 in cash, 60 grams of marijuana, and a brown Chevy Suburban. In Preston's girlfriend's Section 8 apartment, they found numerous car titles, bulletproof vests, Arizona ID cards for Preston, and 1 camcorder and 2 cameras. At the recording studio, they found scales, shrink wrap for large quantities of marijuana residue, numerous pieces of recording studio equipment. At Preston's and his girlfriend's main house, they found 189 grams of marijuana, a digital scale, a black Dodge Durango, and I'm not done yet. Let's not forget the house that they had just recently found that Preston had purchased in Phoenix, Arizona. They found a handgun there and a paid off 2006 Land Rover in Preston's name. But then a few days later, after they got locked up, Galen's girlfriend happened to show up at one of the store's facilities requesting some of the items like, toys, clothes, for the kids and stuff. And the officers did give them to her, upon, they gave her what she asked for. But what she didn't expect was for them to take something from her. Remember that car, that maroon 2003 Monte Carlo that was identical to the undercover police car? Well, since that was a forfeitable item because it was used in a conspiracy, they snatched it up and impounded that car as well. So not only were they not allowing her to leave with the car, but they were also trying to send a message to Preston and Galen saying, we ain't playing with y'all. We ain't playing with y'all. They was hitting them everywhere and taking everything that they own in the process, even the car that Galen's baby mama was driving. No mercy, y'all. No mercy. They was killing the game. They had more money than I could ever imagine coming across in my entire life. 2-3 lives. They had a lot of money. Again, the detectives thought it was a multi-million-dollar marijuana business. And seemed like they were right to me. But anyway, at that time when they got arrested and when they raided all those locations, I was just thinking like, what the hell could possibly be going through Preston's and Galen's mind? Like, did they think they would ever get out of that situation, out of that predicament? I mean, that wasn't like no small time, nothing that they had going on. And then I was thinking, maybe if they weren't so greedy, would they be in that predicament? They could still be possibly rolling around here in these Omaha streets right now today. But anyway, just thinking. So, since the detectives figured that Preston was like the head, that's what I said, Ken. I said the native Omaha, Nebraska hood cartel. They was doing it like the Mexican cartels. If you ask me, shoot, I couldn't tell the difference. But anyway, I know the Mexican cartel is much bigger than that. But I'm just saying they was doing it big, big. But they have figured that between Preston and Galen, they have figured that Preston was the head of the operation. So both figured that he would first interview Galen because after they discover all this evidence of a multi-million-dollar drug business, they figure maybe if they hit the person under the head, that, it might be a possibility of getting him to flip or getting him to talk. But anyway, when the cops, when they went down to talk to Galen, he didn't say nothing. He wasn't trying to talk, and he wasn't going to talk. So they figured, okay, he ain't going to talk. We'll let him stew on it a little bit. We'll go talk to Preston. But just like Galen, Preston wasn't saying shit. They wasn't saying, they know the drill. They know the drill. Don't say nothing. Wait till you get attorney. So neither one of them was saying anything. Now, even though at that time Preston and Galen wasn't interested in speaking to detectives due to all the social media, due to all the media, exposure that the raid was getting, the media started to connect the dots on their own. They started speculating if these raids had anything to do with those 3 bodies that were found burning off of 60th and State Street. Because of all that media stirring up, that led to somebody else feeling the need that they had to come forward and talk to the detectives. And that somebody was a guy who owned a car restoration business. He actually called the homicide unit to tell them that Preston and Galen had 2 more vehicles at his shop that he had been working on. One of those cars was a 1966 Chevy Impala, and the other was a 1972 Monte Carlo. So, of course, those cars had to be impounded as well. I done lost count of how many vehicles they had. But anyway, one day while they was going over all the property that they had seized, Galen's 2004 blue truck was brought up. And when Detective Bowe tried to correct them by saying, no, the truck is black, they decided to pay a visit to the impound where all their property was, all the cars and trucks. So they paid a visit to the impound just to basically make sure they had the right color of the truck written down, in their property records. Once they got there, they realized the truck was actually a dark blue. But also, while writing up the paperwork on the truck, Detective Roscoe, he hit the console, exposing a concealed compartment with $16,000 more in cash and a .38 caliber handgun and another drug scale. Later, after that discovery, they learned from the car restoration shop owner that in addition to the 2 cars he had worked on for Preston and Galen, he'd also done work on a previous vehicle for them. One vehicle in particular was a black Z71 pickup truck. It was painted dark blue, and the body style was switched up to an SS style. Also, the existing bed liner was removed, and a 3/4 inch thick bed liner was sprayed into it. Now, the detectives, they knew that was some serious, extensive work. For a vehicle that was barely a year old at the time, that extensive work cost almost $8,000 on a car that was new. It was done in June 2005. So that was actually 1 month after the 3 burning bodies were found. Now, that information was very important because that truck, again, matched the description of the truck seen near the crime scene that morning when the 3 burning bodies were found. Y'all remember that, right? Okay. So, but as far as Preston and Galen, they were still sitting down in the cell downtown, not willing to talk. The detectives figured that they let them sit down there for a while, hoping one of them would eventually, want to talk. But in the meantime, they had more investigation to do, starting with Guinea. Now, remember, the name they found during the phone record search of Preston and Galen's phone, well, they contacted him Guinea and made arrangements to meet him. After meeting him, they noticed right away he was nervous, he was fidgety, his voice was cracking, his hands were shaking. It became quite obvious that this guy was either guilty or something, or he was hiding something. And because the first thing he said was, "Are you guys here to take me to jail?" Like before they even asked him anything, before they said anything, he said, "Are you guys here to take me to jail?" They was like, nah, they figured they toyed with him a little bit. They was like, nah, we just want to ask you some questions about Preston and Galen. They gave him a card. Call us, when you have time. Call us when you want to, talk. Call us when you got some information for us, that you want to relay. They wanted him actually to feel a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more comfortable, because at that time, he was a hot mess. He was a hot mess. He was so nervous and paranoid. There's like, we just, we can probably get more out of him if he's comfortable and if he comes to us. You know what I mean? So within the next few weeks, late April, Preston and Galen was federally indicted, and a court date for their first appearance was set for May 1st, with a detention hearing following up afterwards. Now, up until that time, neither one of them, neither Preston nor Galen, was willing to talk to the detectives. And then one day, they got a call from Preston's lawyer stating Preston wanted to proffer. Now, for those of y'all who don't know, a proffer in itself, like from him, the head of the organization, for him to ask for it, that's pretty unusual in itself. Usually it's not the head of the organization who asks for a proffer interview, but he asked for the proffer interview, and they decided to give him the interview in hopes of making a proffer deal with him. And for those of y'all who don't know, a proffer deal is basically like a let's make a deal type of thing. It's really important for these big conspiracy cases. For like multi-million-dollar this type of case, it would really be important if they could make a proffer deal. But one thing that would happen if you made the proffer deal, if and only if you gave them correct information, they could prove it, whether it was names, whether it was where the drugs was coming, whether it was the hierarchy goes, who's at the head, who's at the top. Only if they could verify everything that you said to them was true could you receive that proffer deal. So basically, if the information provided by a defendant could lead to evidence or names of others that can be used to help bring down a criminal conspiracy or a criminal empire, they can, in essence, receive credit for their cooperation. That credit can mean that the person cooperating may not be charged with a crime, or that person could be charged with a lesser offense, or the cooperation could eliminate or minimize a custody prison sentence. And the most common way, though, to cooperate is by way of a proffer interview. So right after Preston Galen's hearing took place, they discreetly, or should I say they snuck, they snuck Preston to the basement of the courthouse for his proffer interview. And in the interview was Preston's court-appointed attorney and his own personal attorney, a lady by the name of Roe. Now, what was confusing to the detectives was, why did Preston feel need to have a court-appointed attorney, which is free, and then also have a personal attorney that he was paying for out of pocket? Or, I didn't understand that either. I didn't understand that either. Like, he had a free one, then he had one that he was paying out of pocket, or, somebody else was paying out of pocket since, allegedly all his money and possessions have been seized in the raid, allegedly. But why do I have a feeling that I don't think they've got everything? But who knows? But anywho, the proffer interview was underway, with the first question to Preston being, tell them all about the dope business. Tell them how it all started. And he did not hesitate at all. This is what had happened per Preston. He specifically named Kenny Boston and the other members of the Arizona crew, revealing how he would get the loads of weed in Phoenix and then have it transported to Omaha. He claims that once he found out who Richie was, remember when he found out who Richie was, he was like, bump you, KB. I'm going to try to get a better deal with this dude, Richie, who was KB's connect. Excuse me. So he approached Richie with the idea of, hold on, man, give me a drink. All this weed is making me choke. No. But anyway, that was kind of funny. But anyway, he said he approached Richie with the idea of having him receiving much more larger loads of weed sent to Omaha. He then went on to say that the driver for those big loads was none other than Guinea. Remember the guy whose names kept appearing in their phone records, who the detectives left their car with, the one who was freaking out and paranoid and fidgety and nervous? He claims that was the load driver. So Preston said when the big load arrived in Omaha, he gave Galen 300. Listen, y'all, listen, pay attention. Yes, Candace, I don't even smoke, and I'm up here choking like I'm smoking. It's because I'm talking about all this weed, I'm telling y'all. But listen to this, y'all. Okay. Preston claimed that when the big load of weed arrived in Omaha, he gave Galen $335,000 in cash for half of the payment. But then on the day after the delivery, he claimed that Galen gave him the money back and said for him to keep it. And he also told him that they can keep the weed too for free. They didn't have to pay for that huge load of weed. They didn't have to pay for it. Now the detectives looking at Preston like, hold up, wait a minute. This don't make a bit of sense. Now, everything you said as up to now made sense. It basically, everything he said thus far matched all the Arizona crew, the other people who had something to do with it. They was like, okay, he telling the truth thus far. But when he got to that part, they said, now that don't make a bit of sense. Like, why would Richie from Arizona send a huge load of weed to Omaha for Preston and Galen to purchase, only for Galen to say they don't have to pay for the weed? We get to keep our money. They get to keep the weed, and they get to keep the money. The detective was like, hold up, Preston. You weren't the least bit suspicious about what Galen told you? At all? They were like, did you even consider that Galen might have been, in fact, the person to kill those 3 people that delivered the weed? He was like, well, this is what had me cracking up. He said, well, I have a hard time talking to law enforcement because it goes against my nature. In other words, he wasn't saying nothing else. He didn't want to talk about the murders at all. And just like that, his lawyers was like, time's up. Let's go. We ending this proper interview. Don't say no more. I was like, what kind of games they playing in that basement? How you gonna get up to that part and then tell that bold-faced lie? Y'all had like $700-800, $1 million of weed in that truck, and y'all can keep it for free. Yes, Candace, the lies. But anyway, for the most part, they did believe what he had to say, again, up to that point. But that latter part, nah, they wasn't buying that. But one thing for sure, 2 things for certain, and 1 thing's for sure, they knew that they had to get back in touch with Guinea like yesterday. And that they did. But before then, the assistant U.S. attorney, Lillian Lomax, she was putting together all the indictments. This is about mid-May. She was putting together all the indictments. And from all the evidence, from the search warrants, the interviews, the investigation, a superseding indictment was filed on Preston and Galen. Why? Because they had additional charges due to the original weed they found, the firearms, the handguns in Galen's truck, the rifle in one of the storage unit, and the second handgun located during the search in Arizona. Preston, you see, was a convicted felon. So he got an additional charge for being a felon in possession of a firearm. So all that was listed as property on the indictment, along with the $710,388, was 19 vehicles, $37,351.82 in bank investments and escrow accounts, which were frozen, 3 parcels of real estate, miscellaneous musical recording equipment, including keyboards, computers, speakers, microphones, 2 big screen TVs, a $4,000 certificate to a travel agency purchased by Galen, and jewelry, including 3 watches located in Preston and his girlfriend's apartment. The watches alone were worth over $30,000. Now, even though the indictment was very impressive, to say the least, what it actually did was start the clock all over for the prosecution. Since it was a superseding indictment, that meant they had another 72 hours added on in which they could gather more co-conspirators, start listening to some jail calls, start tracing some more phone records. And on top of that list, they also had to hit up Kenny again, who was the load driver for Preston and Galen. So they called him down to the station. They advised him that he was not under arrest, at least not at that time. They just wanted him to be honest with them, tell them everything that he know, give a honest statement, and that he did. At least that's what they believe. So first he explained to them how he first came to meet Preston a long time ago. Y'all might be familiar with this area, 40th and Bedford. A long time ago in the late 80s of Omaha, Nebraska, Guinea was working at a gas station. Y'all know, the one that's like right down the street from 40th and Bedford, from Bedford Market or whatever that grocery store is called nowadays. He had met a guy named Chuck. Chuck was a crack dealer who introduced Guinea to crack. Guinea eventually became addicted to crack. And Chuck eventually got sentenced to prison for dealing crack. And he got 10 years. But after he got out, which was around Christmas of 2004, he met up with Guinea again. And this time, instead of messing with the crack, they was more interested in cocaine. Now, they were supposed to hit up somebody in Denver, but they couldn't get a hold of them. So they ended up driving down to Phoenix instead. And that's when they met a dealer in the gas station parking lot. Sound familiar, huh? That's the same way Preston had met his connect when he went down to Phoenix, Arizona. And that person who he met in the parking lot was Kenny Boston. And again, he was ironically the same guy who was the first Phoenix Connect for Preston and Galen. Now, just like Preston, they were able to cop weed from Kenny, and then they went back a few weeks later to get more weed, but from a different source. Then after that, Guinea said that Chuck had told him about a guy by the name of Preston, who needed somebody to bring loads of weed from Arizona to Omaha. And when all 3 of them first met up, Preston, he said Preston gave them each $500 of cash up front for gas and expenses. And then once they arrived back to Omaha with the weed, he said that Preston had gave them 8 pounds of weed to split between the 2. Now, this was a cool deal for Guinea. He was cool with that. But Chuck, on the other hand, he became greedy. That's always your decline. He became greedy, and he wanted more cash from Preston. But Preston wasn't feeling that. So instead, what he did, he had a private conversation with Guinea and told him, I'll pay you $1,000 cash for each load that you bring back to Omaha, no matter how big or small the load is. And Guinea was all over that deal, especially because of the fact that when him and Chuck was going down to Arizona and bringing the drugs back up to Omaha, Guinea was doing all the driving while old boy was over there sleeping the entire trip. Then when they get back, they splitting, the weed and everything, the pay. So Guinea was like, well, hey, I can do it all by myself. I'm basically doing it anyway because I'm doing all the driving. So He was cool with that deal. Now that deal led to Guinea doing at least 20 more runs for Preston and Galen, averaging about 500 pounds of weed per load. And as not to get caught by narcotic officers, if he happened to be stopped in his pickup truck along the way, they actually did put the inside the turn boxes and taped it up in bundles, and the tie kind of like helped mask the smell, of the drug and the money and stuff. But what was even more significant was what Guinea told the detectives next. He claimed that on that day of the 3 burning bodies, when they were found, he claims Preston called him out to meet him early in the morning. Guinea said that was uncommon, that was unusual, because Preston normally called him in the afternoons. Guinea told him that on that day, Preston was driving a maroon Chevy Monte Carlo with Galen, and they asked Guinea to drive a U-Haul truck for them. The truck was actually parked at a home in the northwest part of town that had several houses under construction, including the house where the U-Haul was parked. That happened to be that Keystone house, the one that was being remodeled. He claims that Preston gave him the keys and told him to follow them, and he did with no questions asked. Rick claims that he followed them around, which seemed to be leading to no specific location. But then Preston had hit him up on his phone and asked him could they take the truck to his house in the southeast part of Omaha. And he agreed, again, with no questions asked. Then Guinea parked the truck in the backyard. He then jumped into the Monte Carlo with Preston and Galen so they could drop him back off at his pickup truck. Then Guinea said that later on that same day, Galen showed up at his house with a newer Q truck that looked similar to a U-Haul truck, but instead it was white. And also in that truck with Galen was Chuck's 19-year-old son, Little Chuck. So they parked the new truck in the backyard along with the U-Haul truck. But the two trucks, the way they were parked, the backs were like this. The back of the trucks were pulled into the other back of the truck. And during that time, Guinea claimed that they moved bales of weed from the U-Haul truck to the white truck. He said it was so much weed, it had to be at least over 2,000 pounds of marijuana, way more than he normally delivered for them. I'm guessing that was the weed that Preston said Galen said they could have for free. It was like 2,000 pounds of weed. So then he said Galen asked him, could they leave the white truck in his backyard? And he agreed, again, with no questions asked. Then they left. Now, that white truck sat behind Guinea's house for almost 2 weeks. And this time frame was very, very important to the case because after 2 weeks, Preston told Guinea to bring the truck to their new business. That new business was the lawn care service business front. But that lawn service business front was not obtained by Preston and Galen until after the murders took place. So after Guinea dropped off the truck, he was then asked to take possession of some guns and ammunition as well. And again, he did with no questions asked. Now, as far as the guns, the detectives, they wanted to confiscate the guns, but they couldn't because he told them that Preston had instructed him to melt down the guns. And he actually watched him the entire time to make sure he melted down the gun. He was like, man, when the guns got so small, he was still like, melt them down some more, melt them down some more. So the guns was melted down. And then Guinea claims about 3 days before Preston got arrested, Guinea was told to pick up a 300-pound load of weed at Preston's new house in Phoenix and bring that back to Omaha as well. But once he returned to Omaha, which was on April 4th, he got a call from Preston to meet him at a house on 40th Ave with the weed. But then right after that, he got another call saying, don't go to that house. Don't go to that house. The police is there. Then after that, he got another phone call saying to meet him at the Crown Storage unit. But then Preston forgot his keys at the Arizona home, so he couldn't get in. So he told Guinea to bring a torch. But before he could get there with the torch, he was called again and told not to go to the storage unit, but instead to go to the Perkins restaurant. And all that was done mainly because Preston wanted to make sure that Rick wasn't being followed. So after they finally met up at the Perkins restaurant, he claimed that Preston, he had told him to follow him to the Crown Royals. The Crown, did I say Crown Royal? The liquor, okay. He told him to follow him to the Crown storage unit. But once there, Preston was stopped by the police. And Guinea immediately bent a curve. He took that truck on out of there. He took off out of fear because he was scared he was going to be arrested, with them. And then also in that interview, we still talking about the interview. He explained how a couple of days later, he got a call from Preston's brother saying that he's supposed to get him them drugs that he was holding for him. But he didn't want to give him the drugs. He's like, nope, not unless I hear it directly from Preston. You ain't getting none of that dope from me. So then Preston, he had a three-way call between his girlfriend and called and told him, get the drugs to my brother. Please and thank you very kindly. So that's what he did. You said smoker heaven. So that's what he did. He gave him the drugs, but all the drugs must not have been accounted for because later on, Preston hit him up again like, are you sure you gave him all the drugs? Because it don't seem like it was all accounted for. So what Guinea said was, I think that his brother might have got him for, some of that drugs. But anywho, I don't know. So, again, the detectives, they couldn't confiscate the guns from Guinea, but they were able to get the ammunition. That included 4 loose 44 caliber Smith & Wesson rounds, in addition to a box of 33 44 caliber Smith & Wesson 200 grain gold dot hollow point rounds, which was a great find. Why? Because the pool of suspected ammunition from the bullet fragments from those 3 body burnings were narrowed down to only 4 specific types of ammunition. And a year later, in his possession, he had one of those types of ammunition listed, which was the Smith & Wesson 44 caliber 200 grain gold dot hollow point rounds. So now they have more evidence to present to a jury once they go to trial. And again, let's update that association chart. Y'all, this is getting good. Can y'all believe all that stuff they found? All the drugs, the cars, the homes, the jewelry. This was like some real Midwestern drug cartel going down right in the middle of the hood. Right in the Midwest, in Omaha, Nebraska, in the middle of the hood. I would have never imagined that it was going down like that. Not here. Not here. I mean, again, when I think back to around this time, when this was all going on, I remember a lot of cats was out here. A lot of people was on the come up. Like a lot of people. Nice cars. I mean, money, jewelry, you see it when you go out, when you're hanging out on the strip, when you're at the clubs, you see it. I didn't know it was going down like that. I did not. You said real life Midwest Omaha cartel life. Yes. And I still truly think if they hadn't been so greedy, they could possibly still be out there right now. Maybe not have been living as lavish as they was then, but still living pretty nice, pretty darn nice. But anyway, that is the end of part 2 of our 3-part book review of 3 Bodies Burning. That was chapters 20 through 38. Again, if you want to get the book, go to Google, Amazon, go to Amazon, I'm sure you can order from any big bookstore like Barnes and Nobles. I actually, again, I read it years ago, but then to do this book review currently, I actually downloaded it on Kindle, on my phone, and on my iPad. So you can do that as well. For Kindle, it was like $5 or something. I think the book that I saw on Amazon, I want to say it was maybe 17 for the hardback copy, I want to say. But, I like to, sometimes I like to read books, the book, but, sometimes just having it on your phone or something is more convenient for some people. But anywho, that was the end of part 2. Part 3 will be next Friday. We will be doing the end of the book, chapters 39 through 54. We're going to be doing the end of the book. Now, after that, after we finish reviewing the book next Friday, I'm going to do a live interview with the author of the book. Can y'all believe it? I am so excited. I am so excited. We are going to do a live interview on the hood table with the author of the book. That author being the main investigator, Bo. Well, that's his name in the book. That's his name in the book. His real name is Brian Bogdanoff. But in the book, he's known as Bo. Because remember, all the names in the book is altered. So yes, we'll be doing a real live interview with the detective. I cannot wait. I've been talking to him over the last few weeks, and he is so cool. I have to say, he is very, very cool and down to earth, and he has been enjoying our book reviews. He's been sharing it. He's been telling people to come to the hood table to watch it, to share it. I mean, he really has been enjoying the book review, and he, can't believe that, we are reviewing his book, live on YouTube. So yes, I'm very excited about that. And when we do our live interview, people can feel free to, comment in the comment section, ask him questions. We're going to basically ask him, about his experience writing the book, doing investigation, what he's been up to after then, so it's going to be really cool. I cannot wait. I really cannot wait. So next Friday, yes, Candace, that is what's up. That is what's up. Next Friday is going to be our final book review, part 3. We're going to finish the book off. And then again, like I said, within the week after that, we're going to do the live interview with the author, the head investigator of this crazy crime story. So with that being said, everybody, I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Feel free to share the video if you like. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. Also, please like the video. Thumbs up the video, please, because that helps with the analytics on YouTube. Please and thank you very much. And in the meantime and in between time, you guys, the Hood Table Squad and Times Primetime TV Squad, stay safe, be blessed, and I'm out. Deuces. See you later.